You have worked hard today, walking faithfully through the heart of the Babylon of this world. Now, release the tension in every muscle. Take a deep, slow breath in and let it out. At this moment, you are free to tell all the noise and worries that have troubled you to fade away. You are not defined by your environment. You belong to God. Just as Daniel did not compromise his convictions in the midst of Babylon, you, too, have lived this day faithfully, guided by God's standards rather than the world's. I declare your identity today. You are not a person swayed by circumstances. You are a person who trusts in the presence of God. When anxiety knocks at your heart, you are a person who turns back to the place of prayer to seek God first. Believe that every small choice you made today is building the foundation for a grand victory tomorrow. I declare the vision for your tomorrow. The world you face tomorrow will be brighter than today. Even if you do not know the details of your future, it is okay, because He who governs your times and seasons has already prepared something good for your path ahead. You are a person who does not get drunk on human praise but anchors your heart in God's approval. You are a person who does not despair in the face of impossible problems, but fixes your gaze on the God who holds the answers. Like Daniel's faith, who trusted God even if he did not, your tomorrow will be filled with the freedom of one not bound by results. God will not forsake you. He is your Father who shuts the mouths of lions in the darkest pits and walks with you through the hottest furnaces of trial. Your day tomorrow will begin with the peace of God. Tomorrow morning, you will awaken as one who has found favor in His sight. Refreshing and vibrant, I leave your heart upon the promises of God. Daniel arrived in Babylon and immediately faced pressure to abandon his faith. New environments often demand new compromises. However, Daniel did not allow his environment to determine his identity. He remembered first to whom he belonged. Chapter 1, verse 8. But Daniel purposed in his heart that he would not defile himself with a portion of the king's meat, nor with the wine which he drank. Faith is often broken in small choices rather than in grand moments. A person who belongs to God chooses truth over convenience. I resolved that I would rather lose comfort than lose my conscience. King Nebuchadnezzar's dream was a problem no one could solve. People scrambled for answers, but Daniel sought God first. He knew that God was more important than the solution. Chapter 2, verse 17. Then Daniel went to his house. We often wrestle with our problems, but God calls us to seek Him first. Before I analyze the problem, I seek God first. Daniel did not know the future, but he knew the God who governs the future. Faith is not knowing every answer, it is knowing God. Chapter 2, verse 21. And He changeth the times and the seasons. He removeth kings and setteth up kings. Even if the world shakes, God's sovereignty remains unshaken. I fix my gaze on the certain God rather than the uncertain future. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego believed that God could deliver them. Yet they declared they would not deny Him even if He did not. This is mature faith. Chapter 3, verse 18. But if not, true trust does not exist only when the desired outcome is guaranteed. I am not loyal because of the reward, I am loyal because God is worthy. The lion's den was not a place Daniel chose. Yet God was with him even there. God does not always remove the danger, but He never abandons His people. Chapter 6, verse 22. My God hath sent His angel, and hath shut the lions' mouths, that they have not hurt me. The presence of God is more powerful than the environment. I trust in God's presence, not the situation. Daniel lived in Babylon, but he did not allow Babylon to live inside his heart. The world constantly tries to shape our thoughts. but a person of God guards their inner life with the Word. Chapter 1, verse 8. But Daniel purposed in his heart. Spiritual maturity is revealed not by the ability to change the environment, but by the power to remain unchanged by it. I do not allow the world to define me. I choose who God says I am. When faced with the dream of Nebuchadnezzar, all the magicians were seized by fear. But Daniel was not swept away by panic. He turned to God. Chapter 2, verse 17. Then Daniel went to his house. Fear makes problems look bigger, but prayer makes God look bigger. Before I react to anxiety, I react to God. God showed Daniel the king's secret. Yet, Daniel did not consider it his own special merit. Chapter 2, verse 30. But as for me, this secret is not revealed to me for any wisdom that I have more than any living. Grace received from God is not a reason for pride, but a reason for gratitude. I do not exalt myself with what I know, I exalt God. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego knew God could save them, but their faith was not tied to the result. Chapter 3, verse 18. But if not, faith is not a technique to get the results we want, but a trust that yields ourselves to God. I build my faith on God's character, not on the outcome. The fiery furnace could not destroy the three men. Instead, the presence of God was revealed more clearly there. Chapter 3, verse 25. And they are loose, walking in the midst of the fire, and they have no hurt. God does not always remove the trial, but He is with us within it. I treasure the presence of God more than the absence of hardship. Nebuchadnezzar exalted himself by looking at his own achievements, but God showed him how fragile human pride is. Chapter 4, verse 17. The Most High ruleth in the kingdom of men. Pride begins with the delusion that we can succeed without God. I do not rely on my achievements, I rely on the grace that holds me. Nebuchadnezzar only realized who the true king was after he was humbled. God does not humble us to destroy us. He humbles us to restore us. Chapter 4, verse 37. Now I Nebuchadnezzar praise and extol and honor the King of heaven. A person who humbles themselves before God is never a loser. I become stronger by being humble before God. Belshazzar treated the opportunity given by God lightly. He heard the warning, but he did not search his own heart. Chapter 5, verse 27. Tekel, thou art weighed in the balances, and art found wanting. God looks at inner truthfulness rather than outward success. I value truthfulness before God more than the evaluation of others. Daniel held a high position, but he remained a man of prayer. Success could not change his habits. Chapter 6, verse 10. He kneeled upon his knees 3 times a day and prayed. Many people pray in a crisis, but faithful people pray at all times. I am not someone who seeks God only when needed. I am someone who walks with God always. Daniel continued to pray even when he knew he would be thrown into the lion's den. He chose obedience over safety. Chapter 6, verse 10. He went into his house, and his windows being open in his chamber toward Jerusalem, he kneeled upon his knees 3 times a day and prayed. True faith does not wait for the danger to vanish. It is the courage to pass through the danger with God. Daniel entered the lion's den, but God did not abandon him. God is with his people even in the darkest of places. Chapter 6, verse 22. My God hath sent his angel, and hath shut the lions' mouths. I fix my gaze on the certain God rather than the uncertain future. Daniel's loyalty to God did not change according to circumstances. God values faithfulness more than results. Chapter 6, verse 20. He that servest thy God continually. I am not loyal because of the reward, I am loyal because God is worthy. Daniel's great victory was not built in a day. Small acts of obedience prepared him for a great mission. Chapter 1, verse 8. But Daniel purposed in his heart. I believe that today's small act of obedience prepares for tomorrow's great mission. In his vision, Daniel saw that the kingdoms of the world were constantly changing, but God's reign never faltered. Chapter 7, verse 14. His dominion is an everlasting dominion. I remember that God is still on the throne, even amidst the chaos. Daniel did not understand every vision immediately, yet he trusted God even in his silence. Chapter 12, verse 9. For the words are closed up and sealed till the time of the end. I do not conclude that God is absent when he is silent. Daniel held fast to God's truth amidst countless kings and cultures. He used God's word as the standard over all human thoughts and arguments. Chapter 1, verse 17. God gave them knowledge and skill in all learning and wisdom. I do not welcome every thought, I discern its source. In the face of crisis, Daniel chose prayer over fear. Faith is not the absence of fear, but the choice of direction. Chapter 2, verse 17. Then Daniel went to his house. I do not accept every fear that comes to my mind as truth. Daniel focused on God's promise over the king's threat. He returned to God repeatedly. Chapter 6, verse 10. He kneeled upon his knees 3 times a day and prayed. I choose the recurring word over the recurring worry. Daniel relied on the wisdom God provided over the wisdom of the world. Chapter 2, verse 28. But there is a God in heaven that revealeth secrets. I follow the word of God, not the loudest voice in my head. Daniel saw a God who was greater than Babylon. He looked at the promise, not the situation. Chapter 4, verse 17. The Most High ruleth in the kingdom of men. I build my life on the promise rather than the possibility. Daniel did not turn a blind eye to reality, but he did not allow reality to be his final conclusion. Chapter 2, verse 28. But there is a God in heaven. I do not deny reality, but I do not allow reality to have the final authority. The attacks of people against Daniel could not stop God's plan. Chapter 6, verse 28. So this Daniel prospered. I do not give up on the door God has opened because of human opposition. Daniel chose his relationship with God over worldly gain. Chapter 1, verse 8. But Daniel purposed in his heart. I do not miss the invisible blessing because of visible loss. Even in the lion's den, God protected Daniel in his own way. Chapter 6, verse 22. My God hath sent his angel. I do not try to dictate how God should protect me. Daniel prayed and waited for a long time. God was working even in the waiting. Chapter 10, verse 12. From the first day that thou didst set thine heart to understand, and to chasten thyself before thy God, thy words were heard. I do not consider waiting as wasted time. God is at work even in the waiting. Daniel lived faithfully before God, even when he was misunderstood by people. Chapter 6, verse 4. For as much as he was faithful, neither was there any error or fault found in him. I value being known by God more than being understood by people. Daniel's small obedience left an impact that spanned generations. Chapter 12, verse 3. And they that be wise shall shine as the brightness of the firmament. I believe that the obedience planted today will bear fruit in time. Daniel saw the human kings who fell, but God's faithfulness remained unchanged. Chapter 4, verse 3. His kingdom is an everlasting kingdom. I do not think God has given up on me just because I have stumbled. Daniel saw God's plan, which was greater than his own. Chapter 11, verse 36. For that is determined shall be done. I find rest in the fact that God's plan is greater than mine. Daniel chose what God valued over what Babylon valued. Chapter 1, verse 8. But Daniel purposed in his heart. I choose what God says is important over what the world says is important. Daniel prepared for the future, but he did not fear it. He knew God reigned over tomorrow. Chapter 12, verse 4. But thou, O Daniel, shut up the words and seal the book. I prepare for tomorrow, but I do not worry about it. Daniel kept the peace God gave him amidst threats. Chapter 10, verse 12. Fear not. I reject unnecessary fear to protect the peace God has given me. Daniel was used by God far more greatly than he had imagined. Chapter 10, verse 11. O Daniel, a man greatly beloved. I do not underestimate what God will do through me. Daniel did not know every detail of the future, but he trusted that God knew. Chapter 12, verse 13. But go thou thy way till the end be, for thou shalt rest, and stand in thy lot at the end of the days. I trust that God has not lost the way, even when the end is not in sight. Daniel began as a captive, but ended his life as a man of God. The world changed his position, but God kept his identity. Chapter 12, verse 13. Thou shalt rest, and stand in thy lot at the end of the days. I resolve to live as one who belongs to God, right in the middle of Babylon. Tomorrow, you will witness the seeds of obedience you planted today blooming into the fruit of your declarations. You will experience the promises of God, which you confessed with your lips, manifesting as concrete realities in the soil of your life. Your tongue will speak the language of God, not the language of this world. When anxiety comes knocking, you will choose to declare your faith instead, and that declaration will once again bring your circumstances under the sovereignty of God. The resolutions of faith you made today are not in vain. They are the powerful foundation for the victory you will walk in tomorrow. Now rest in peace. Every moment you face tomorrow is already prepared with God's grace. Go forth and walk in victory, and return to this place of prayer with the testimony of that victory. It is my deepest hope that every step you take becomes a living witness to the glory of God. May you have a peaceful night. I bless your tomorrow.